Hello everyone and welcome to another Muffin video. Before we dive in here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell and drop a like on the video too if you're enjoying the content. Don't forget to join our Discord server as well if you're not already there. The link is in the description down below. We've also activated our channel membership which comes with all kinds of perks, so check that out if you're interested in joining. And speaking of channel membership, I do want to take a moment to give a special shout out to our current members. So thanks to all of you, and I hope you're enjoying the benefits. And finally, a reminder that all comments on every video will be automatically entered into our weekly giveaways. Winners will be randomly selected every Monday. So good luck, and let's get this started. So we've managed to get another global first clear on the 16th trial in the game. If you can believe it, I can hardly believe it. We're up to the 16th trial in the game. The risk difficulty of the battle against the summoned machine. Now, this fight I actually found quite fun. It's not necessarily the most complicated fight mechanically, but it is a very movement-oriented fight, and it just requires a little bit of coordination between the team, and you'll be able to clear it as long as you can pass the DPS check, of which there is definitely a little bit of a DPS check required to beat this boss. So let's take a look at this Tower Guardian boss and see what its abilities are, and then we're going to jump in and take a look at the fight that we managed to clear it on. So the boss has a few abilities here, and some of them are important and others just kind of happen, but there's going to be a very different responsibility list when it comes to DPS and when it comes to tanking and healing. So the first ability is Cleanse Program. Now before I get into this, I will explain the arena is going to be a circular arena with a left and a right arrow that you press to move around the boss in a circular fashion. And depending on which ability the boss is using, you're going to have to rotate around the boss in a particular order. Now, generally speaking, there's going to be different movement for the tank and the DPS and healer, so do keep that in mind. Now, Cleanse Program, the way this works is this will torch one of the zones, specifically where the tank is standing. So whenever the tank, basically the group is going to stand in front of the boss, and then the tank should go stand at the start of the battle off to the right for just the beginning of the battle. They'll stand off to the right or to the left, depending on your preference, until the boss casts Cleanse Program. Then the tank's going to immediately swap back with the group, and then from that point on until the next movement phase, they're going to stick with the group. And that's all going to fall into place, exactly why this positioning makes sense when we start explaining the battle. So next up we have Forced Wipeout, which is a massive damage against the tank. And the tank definitely needs to be shielding this ability because it deals a huge amount of damage. Shockwave Surge is a periodic AoE damage to all targets that the healer has to just heal through. Intrusion Alert calls for the guards to come. Now you do have these adds in the fight which deal constant damage and are quite annoying to deal with, especially because the boss also puts a buff up called Arhent Accelerate. Excuse me while my Muffin rests the wagon, interrupting my explanation, as always with perfect timing. So the boss uses this, which increases the attack and attack speed of all the adds. And so either the tank or the healer will have to run a Dispel in order to clear this buff from the boss. Now the reason you would want the tank or the healer to run this is because this is quite a hefty DPS check, and you're not going to want one of your DPS to run Dispel because you might not have enough DPS to beat the boss before it's in rage. So that's something you do have to keep in mind. Now next up we're going to have the final protocol. Oh no, actually this is related to Pinpoint. So Pinpoint Purge is basically the most important ability in this entire fight, and the way this works is the boss is going to fire these missiles at you, the players. Sorry, my brain shut down for a second. The boss is going to fire missiles, and the way it works is the boss casts the ability, and then red targets start appearing on the ground, and after 3 targets appear on the ground, they will fire. And so what you have to do as a group is you're going to stay grouped together for this ability, all 4 players in the same zone. And then once you see 1, 2, 3, once you see the 3rd target on the ground, everyone's going to move together, one zone to the left or to the right, depending on your group's preference. It is extremely important that you move together, and it's extremely important that no one moves early, because the lasers, the missiles will target where current players are. So if someone moves early, then it means the next zone has a chance to be targeted, which means you're screwed, because then if you move there, you'll die. So it's very important that you all wait for the 3rd target to show up on the ground and then move together. And you're going to repeat this process a number of times. I think it's 3 or 4 times, and we'll confirm when we watch the video together. And then on the last salvo of missiles, the last 3 missiles, what's going to happen is you're going to move to the next zone, and then the tank's going to stay, and the DPS and healer are going to move an additional zone away from the tank. The reason for this is the boss is going to use Cleanse Program pretty soon after Pinpoint Purge. And if you're standing in the same zone as the tank, this will kill you extremely quickly in 1 or 2 ticks. So as you go through your Pinpoint Purge, then the tank stays in one zone, and then the DPS and healer travel one zone further. And then once the boss casts Cleanse Program one more time, the tank goes back and stands with the DPS and healers and prepares for the next Pinpoint Purge, as the boss casts this ability over and over and over again. Now, there is this final protocol which does require the healer to be aware of and mitigate this. After the boss casts Pinpoint Purge a number of times, it's going to deal extra damage, so be aware of that, the final protocol. Now, this boss does have a longer enrage timer than a lot of other bosses. This has a 605-second cooldown, which is just over 10 minutes. Normally, it would be an 8-minute enrage. So you do have 10 minutes to beat this boss, but even with that extra time, it is a hefty DPS check. So I think that the best thing to do now, rather than explain this abilities any further, is to actually jump right into the video and take a look at how this boss plays out, because it's all going to click when you see it in action. And let's jump in right now. Okay, and let's hit play. So here we have the fight. You can see here there's 4 quadrants, and we have a left and a right arrow. And the tank, as you can see here, is immediately went to the right hand side. There's the forced wipeout, by the way, which the tank shielded for. And the tank's going to stay here until the boss casts Cleanse Program. So you can see here the boss casts Cleanse Program. It's facing the tank, so it casts here, and the tank immediately moves back with us to stay in the group. And the boss will continue Cleanse Programming here while the tank doesn't take damage from it. Now the boss starts casting Pinpoint Purge. And now you see here 1, 2, 3, everyone moves in the same direction. 1, 2, 3, everyone moves in the same direction. 1, 2, 3, everyone moves in the same direction. Tank stays, DPS and healer move 1 zone extra. So it's 3 times the Pinpoint Purge. It's 3 times, and then on the final one, you can see here the tank stayed over on his own quadrant just until the boss cast Cleanse Program, and now we're into another Pinpoint Purge. Okay, here we go. We move to the right. 1, 2, 3, move to the right. 2, 3, move to the right. And again, the tank stays, and DPS and healer moves an additional quadrant until the boss casts Cleanse Program and then moves over. And that's the whole fight. That's it. This is literally the whole fight. It just repeats and repeats and repeats this process over and over again. Pinpoint Purge, 3 targets on the ground, move, 3 targets on the ground, move, 3 targets on the ground, move. Then the tank stays 1 zone before the DPS and healer moves. So 3 move, then tank stays, DPS and healer moves, tank waits for Cleanse Program, then tank moves in to join the rest of the DPS and healer. And you can see here a tank almost died by not moving out of Cleanse Program fast enough. That shows you just how much damage goes out in Cleanse Program, and you have to really do your best to avoid it. So here we have another Pinpoint Purge. 1, 2, 3, everyone moves. Again, 1, 2, 3, everyone moves. And 1, 2, 3, everyone moves. And again, tank's going to stay here. Healer and DPS are going to keep going. Cleanse Program, tank moves. Now, one thing you do have to be aware of, and I think you'll start seeing it in the next few pinpoints, is you're going to run into a situation where the cleanse program is going to come pretty much exactly at the same time as the end of Pinpoint Purge. So what that means is you as a DPS and healer are going to have to move so quickly. You have to be so on point to move quickly out of the same zone as the tank, so the cleanse program doesn't wipe you out. I think this might be one of the... Yep, look at this. We had to move right away because the cleanse program lined up exactly with our movement, but luckily we did move fast enough that we barely took a tick of damage. Otherwise, that would have been really, really bad. So the boss, it's a relatively long fight, even for our party DPS. This still took us over 8 minutes to beat. And really, at the end of the day, you're just repeating the same cycle. And you can see, by the way, I haven't mentioned it yet, but on the boss's HP bar underneath it, you will see the blue buff on the left-hand side of his buff bar. That is the buff that supercharges the attack and attack speed of the adds. So that is what either the healer or the tank will be cleansing. In our fight, we had the healer cleansing that ability, but it's really your choice what works better for your party. And like I said, the DPS should not be responsible for... when I say cleanse, I meant dispel, excuse me. You should not have your DPS dispelling because you need as much DPS as you can, because this is very much a high HP boss that requires a large amount of damage. So we're closing in on 50% here. Now, as far as Melamon, it might be worth having one of your DPS run Book of Answers and one of your DPS run Bladehound, or maybe both Bladehounds, depending on your overall party makeup, because as the boss gets under 50%, if you start doing more damage, you're going to have a higher chance of making it past the enrage timer. So very important that you do whatever you can to increase your party DPS, because like I said, this fight does last on quite a while, and it can be pretty brutal if you don't have the party DPS. Like, look at this, we're at 4 minutes 30 and the boss hasn't even reached 50% yet. So now we finally hit 50%, and now Bladehound's going to start kicking in, so we're going to see HP going down a little bit faster. But again, we're following the same pattern. 1, 2, 3, move. 1, 2, 3, move. And like I said, this is pretty much the whole fight. This is pretty much the whole fight. Now, you may run into some trouble with the ads, as if... Yeah, I mean, basically the ads shouldn't be a problem as long as you're cleansing the debuff appropriately, but sometimes if you're not, either your tank's not casting Warcry properly or you're not cleansing the debuffs properly, you can find that the ad damage is going to very quickly overwhelm the party, and especially since the ads tend to target DPS as well if they're not being Warcried. So in some of our early attempts, we tried running Dispel over Warcry, for example, and we found that it actually didn't work that well because of the fact the ads would no longer target the tank at all. They just targeted DPS. And so the DPS were dying because they were being targeted by the ads, and even with the tank dispelling, it was not worth over Warcry. So the Warcry was actually better because then the ads would actually all target the tank. So that was the better format for us, and like I said, try it out with your party, see what works better. Depending on your particular party composition, you may find that different structure and approach works better for you. So we're getting through here, 30% HP, and you can see what I mean. This is a very, very long fight. I mean, we're still powering through. We've got about 3 minutes, or maybe just about 2 minutes left in the fight. But again, as you can see here, the mechanics are simply repeating, rinse and repeat, forced wipe on the tank, tank shields it, 3 of those, move. And that's something you have to be aware of as a tank, by the way, is you can't ever tunnel vision, because you saw here we're in the middle of a pinpoint attack and focusing on movement, but during that movement the boss casts its tank buster. So if you're the tank and you're focused on looking at the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you don't see the boss casting the tank buster, that'll kill you. So you have to be aware the boss can cast abilities when you're not expecting it. So be mindful of it, be aware of it, and don't let yourself get caught off guard by focusing on one thing too much and missing another thing. So always look out for forced wipeout. It can come during the Pinpoint Purge, and if it does, you just have to have your shield ready to avoid it while you're moving. So here comes another Pinpoint Purge. We're getting the HP relatively low here, 16%, almost there, 15%. This is one of the longest trial fights we've had, and it is... it was interesting because when we were doing this fight, I had not noticed before the fight that it had an extra enrage timer up to 10 minutes. I thought it was the same 8 minutes, and so I was prepared. And I was like, oh no, yeah, we don't have the DPS for it. Oh, we could try again. Oh no, it's the end. And I was like, alright, here it comes. The boss is gonna go berserk and start killing us all, and it didn't happen. And so I was like, wait a second. And then I noticed after the fact that actually it's got a 10-minute enrage, not an 8-minute enrage. So that was a pretty funny moment in my head. I was sitting there like, wait, what's going on here? Why are we still alive? So here we are, 8 minutes 23. Bosses there, 6%. Getting there, 5%. Forced wipeout, tank shields it, 3%. We're going to get a Pinpoint Purge, and we're going to start moving. You can't get too excited yet, even though the boss is low HP, because we can literally wipe with one mistake in this ability. So we have to move while not getting overly excited. 1%. Keep moving. Next. Keep moving. I think I moved one zone too far. Yeah, I moved one zone too far, just like, and it didn't matter. Oh, the reward thing went away really quickly. I clicked too fast, but here we have it. We made it through. And then we get the pop-up for the first clear. There it is. And that's pretty much the whole fight. That is the whole fight. I'm going to jump ahead here. Jump ahead to there. And there you have it. So that's the whole fight. And hopefully you found this video helpful. It is a very long fight. It is a bit of a DPS check. But once you get into the swing of the mechanics, it's pretty fun. It's like a rhythmic kind of mechanics approach, and I enjoyed it. So there you have it. I hope this helps you beat the fight. Good luck, everyone. Enjoy the battle and take care. Bye now.